The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
It's right about time again to swerve again, confuse the general fans again. Add another swerve and then...
Oh shit! It's Vince Russo!
Vince McMahon's best kept secret.
I am the anti-Christ of professional wrestling!
David Arquette won the world title!
I've got a wife, 3 kids at home, and I really don't need this shit.
How can this show be so awful, Mr. McMahon? I didn't think it was.
Viagra on a pole match.
And Hogan, you big bald son of a bitch, kiss my ass!
Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. McMahon, the family, The Rock, they screwed us all.
Now you're the editor, right?
Mankind did it! Jumpy, beat me! Goldberg speared Russo on the table.
I'm from New York.
I'll get downright nasty.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
I'm just starting here on podcast one. Everybody knows that. I had the first big interview under the belt with none other than Shawn Michaels, who did me a huge, huge favor. But I know this is podcast one. This is a big deal. I got to keep the big shooters going. And you have no idea what it's like to nail down a wrestler for an interview. You know why? Because these guys are all workers at heart. That's what they do. They work you. They tell you they'll do it. They'll do it. They'll do it. Then when you try to nail them down for the time and the day, you can go whistle Dixie. It's next to impossible. So I had to look at, for me, all right, a couple of things. Who's huge? Who do I love personally? And who's money in the bank? Who's going to be there? Who's going to say that they're going to be there for the big podcast one interview and actually be there? So it got narrowed down real easy to the one guy that I love. I mean, truly, truly, truly love. I think I can say he is my most favorite person that I ever worked with in 25 years in the wrestling business. This is a guy that has earned a chip on his shoulder. He has earned having some kind of an attitude, but has none, zero, zilch, a regular guy, even though he is an Olympic gold medalist celebrating his 20th anniversary, the great Kurt Angle.
How you doing, Vince? Thanks for the intro.
Bro, I love the smile. I love the bald head. I love everything about you, Mr. Angle.
Thank you.
But listen, I got to tell you, bro, we have to open up this conversation here. Okay. Now, Kurt, I'm going to bring up your age because like anybody can go to Wikipedia and see your age.
Yep.
You're 47 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You got a beautiful wife, the beautiful Giovanna, who's a very good personal friend of mine, by the way.
Yes. 4
beautiful kids. Right?
Yes.
But that wasn't enough for you, was it, Kurt? Kurt, we got to talk about this because you got to make me understand. Bro, you're a 47-year-old man, 4 kids, and the beautiful Giovanna has a bun in the oven. You're going to be chasing a kid around at 40? Are you out of your mind, bro?
I've always wanted a big family, Vince, and Giovanna did too. And so I obviously started with Kira and Cody, and I love them to death, but falling in love with Giovanna and starting a family with her, an extended family, has been the biggest blessing. So we plan on having 3, and this is our 3rd. So I think I will be done after this one. But I worry about it because, by the time the baby's graduating high school, I'm going to be close to 70. So that's going to be a little rough on me.
Well, Kurt, I could tell you this. You're 47 years old. You're ready to have your 5th child. Bro, listen, at 40 years old, I wasn't even interested in sex anymore, Kurt. I was at 40, I was done with all kinds of sex, let alone having a kid. Are you sure you're going to have the energy to raise a newborn, Kurt?
I don't know. With God's grace, I think I'll be all right. I think I'm going to be okay.
Kurt, fill me in on what you've been doing. You look so relaxed, bro. I see you so relaxed. I know you recently had a big match with Rey Mysterio, but you haven't been working that much. Fill me in on a day in the life of Kurt Angle after TNA.
You know, I really want to take this year off. And the only reason I wrestled Rey, and I have a few more matches set up this year periodically, one in June, one in August, and then one in November. And I just wanted to have a one match every few months to keep my body in ring shape. I didn't want to just take the full year off. And then if I do head back, wherever I go next year, I wanted to make sure I wasn't rusty. So they were specifically planned so that I could at least stay in the ring for a limited amount of time this year while I take the year off.
But Kurt, let me ask you this. I understand the ring rust and I get that, but bro, you know, an athlete like you, I mean, you know, even at 47, bro, you still have to work out religiously. I would guess every day, correct?
Yeah, it's more than working out. It's maintenance. You know, my body, I got beat up pretty good the past 20 years, let alone the 20 prior when I was amateur wrestling. But I just wanted to take some time off and let any of the kinks you know, heal up. And the thing is, when I work out every day, 90% of it's maintenance. I do my traction for my neck. I do my anti-gravity for my back. I stretch. Very little is in the gym. You know, I only lift for about a half hour a day. That's it. If I go for a run, it's every few days, and it's for 3 miles. So everything's really based around maintenance and trying to keep my body healthy more than trying to go in the gym and work out for 4 hours at a time.
Hey, Kurt, let me ask you this. Even as your career, you know, was winding down at TNA, bro, I was still watching you, and it's like you, bro, there's no other way to say it. You're a freak of nature because let's face it, Kurt, there are guys that go on longer than they should, you know, and understand there's a million reasons why. But even seeing your last matches, I was like, he is a freak of nature. He can still go there. It's his choice to retire. He can literally go into his 50s, and I wouldn't notice a difference. But as an athlete, Kurt, like, what were you noticing as time went on and, you know, you got into your late 30s and then the 40s? What was it, old injuries acting up? Like, what were you starting to notice?
I think more than anything, I was pretty, I wouldn't say healthy. I've had injuries throughout my career, especially in pro wrestling, but I felt really good. Felt really good up until probably 38, 39, where I felt at my peak. Like I wrestled in the Olympics at 27 years of age, but when I was 39, I wish that I was wrestling in the Olympics at that age. That's where I peaked. I have to say, physically, mentally, spiritually, that was my peak of my career. So that's why I was considering MMA. That's why I didn't want to retire from pro wrestling at that age. I'd say the last few years have gone a little bit downhill. I do hide it pretty well when I wrestle. You'll notice I don't run as much. You know, I don't bump as much. I'm smarter about what I do. But, you know, now I'm clean. I've been clean for 3 years and clean and sober. And what amazes me is how much I masked the pain prior to that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize how sore, how beat up my knees were, or my neck or my back. And after, you know, getting clean and not taking anything, it really humbled me quite a bit. But I can still go. You know, all I have to do is warm up for an extra 5 or 10 more minutes. I can still go in the ring. So I'm not concerned about wrestling. I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. But it is harder for me now because I am clean.
You know, Kurt, that's interesting to me, though. Why do you know, like, bro, first of all, it boggles my mind that you won the gold medal at 27. I didn't realize, you know, and I should have doing the math that you were that old. Then you say, you know, you literally didn't peak till 37, 39. Bro, it almost seems like you were 10 years behind where you should have been, but yet you've more or less been wrestling your whole life. Yeah. Why did it turn out that way, do you think?
I don't know. I just feel like the thing is, when I was wrestling the Olympics in '96, I wasn't even good. I was just starting to get the hang of it. I mean, I was good enough to win the gold medal, and that's, I'm going down in history as one of the greatest amateur wrestlers of all time, American wrestlers. But I wasn't even good yet. I was just starting to get the hang of it, just starting to improve. I was tired of it. I was tired of the competition. I was tired of the stress, the training 10 hours a day. I should have gone on another 4 years at least, but I didn't. I just wanted to get out. I already won a world championship. I won a gold medal in the Olympics in '95 and '96, and there was nothing else for me to prove. But I knew I wasn't done being an athlete, and that's where pro wrestling came in.
Kurt, I gotta ask you this, because this is where the psyche really comes into play, and I'm going to use myself as an example. Mm-hmm. Kurt, when I worked at the WWE from like '94 to '99, and we went through that period of the Attitude Era, and I had been a wrestling fan since 1972.
Right.
I knew at the end of the Attitude Era, I knew, Vince, no matter where you go from here as far as career-wise, it ain't going to get better than this. Right. I mean, Kurt, during the height of the Attitude Era, 10 million people were watching wrestling every Monday. The ratings were ridiculous. And I knew, bro, this is it. This is the pinnacle. This is the peak. You're not going to be able to top this. And Kurt, that became very difficult for me. Right. Here you are, Kurt, at 27 years old. You win an Olympic gold medal. Like you said, there's not much you can do after that. Bro, what was going through your head at the time, Kurt? Were you thinking like I was thinking, like, man, I'm 27 years old and I just peaked out by winning a gold medal. How am I going to go to a next level?
Vince, that was the hard part. I wasn't satisfied at winning the gold medal. I felt like, but winning that, it was such a high standard. It was really hard for me to find something to replace it. I really believe the reason I was so good in pro wrestling is because I wanted to prove on another platform that I could be the best at something else. And nothing ever compared to the gold medal. Not the world heavyweight titles or being known as the best wrestler in the world at the time. I was always looking for something to match what I did in the Olympics, and I haven't been able to. So up until now, besides my family, my wife and my kids, I'm not satisfied with what I've done in my life, and I guess I won't be satisfied till the day I die.
And you know what that tells me? That tells me in a year you're going to have kid number 6. Then what?
I don't know. Then 7 and 8, maybe. I don't know.
Kurt, I have to ask you this, bro. I love talking to you because, like, you listen. I've worked with a million wrestlers. They're all great athletes. I mean, you are a world-class athlete, and that's why I love talking to you. I live vicariously through you, Kurt. Kurt, I want to ask you this. Wrestling, I'm talking about amateur wrestling now, the gold medal, winning the gold medal. Kurt, I would have to think the psychological is almost just as important as the physical. Like when you're staring, it's one-on-one, bro. You're not playing on a team. It's one-on-one. I got to beat him. He's trying to beat me. A lot of that is psychological, Kurt. Yeah. So, Kurt, I know how you train to wrestle. I understand that. But psychologically, how do you get fit for that type of one-on-one competition, Kurt?
It's hard. I've been in situations where I beat myself. One year in the NCAAs where I took second, I was expected to crush the kid, and I had a knee injury, and I didn't believe I could beat him, and I didn't. I learned a lot by doing that, and it's really difficult to go back and look at what I did in the past and the mistakes I've made. But I've always been strong psychologically. Even when I was unconfident, for some reason, I've always done my best. I can't really explain it. I guess when it comes down to, without saying it in a messed up way, I take pressure very well. And I don't know why, because I don't like it. I hate it. I hate pressure. But when I'm under pressure, that's when I perform my best.
Kurt, I have to ask you this. I asked Chael Sonnen the same question. I said to him, listen, bro, I don't care how macho you are. Don't tell me when you get in that octagon and that door closes, you're not a little bit afraid.
Oh, he's scared to death.
He told me that. He goes, no, bro, I'm afraid every time I got in there. Kurt, were you going again, looking at 20-year anniversary? Yeah. Were you ever scared going into those matches during the Olympics or throughout your amateur career?
Yeah, Vince, I like, I'll give you an example. In 1995, the world champion, he was the 94 world champion. He was now, I was in the finals against him in the Worlds in 1995. And he beat me twice prior. He pinned me in 38 seconds, and he beat me 7-0. I mean, he just manhandled me. And I knew that going up against him, I didn't think I was going to win. I really didn't think I was going to win, but I didn't count myself out. What I did was I trained a certain way so I would never get tired, and I would tire him out. And I knew I couldn't beat him from a technique standpoint or a strength or speed standpoint, but I knew if I got him tired enough that he would be like silly putty in my hands, and that's what happened. So I learned how to win without having the talent.
But
I figured out a way.
That's got to take so much in your mind, because I'm a regular guy, bro. I'm putting myself in those shoes, and I'm saying to myself, bro, if there is one shred of a thought in my mind that this guy has already beat me and I'm going to lose, bro, it would be over right there. That's what's fascinating to me, Kurt, because if you have that thought in your mind, how can you possibly overcome that?
The only way I did it, Vince, is I didn't let the thoughts bother me. I knew that there was a small chance I could win, but I went with my game plan, and that's the one thing I can tell people out there that want to compete or have been competing or want to do something like that. That you have to figure out your strengths and your weaknesses, and you have to figure out your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and you have to figure out a way how you can beat them, and no matter what it is, at all costs. And mine was very simple: conditioning. If I was the most conditioned wrestler in the world, I was going to win. And that didn't mean I was the best. It just meant that I could wear these guys down and make them feel like little mice. And that's what I was able to do. So I figured it out. I figured out a way to win. And I think that's really important in any sport that you do. You have to figure out how you're going to win. You're not always going to be the most talented. You're not going to be the best, but there is a way that you can win. You just have to figure it out.
But see, Kurt, here's where I'm starting to think. I mean, when everybody thinks of you, when I think of you, when I think of the professional side of you, bro, I really do think cyborg. And I've described your work in that way so many times. But, bro, that is an absolute shoot, Kurt, because at this level, we're talking about Olympic gold medal level, bro, there can be zero emotion, correct?
You're exactly right. Yeah, you let emotion get the best of you, and you're going to lose.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you're going to cry like a baby when the kid's born. How does that work?
You know what? When you're doing something that means more to you than anything in the world, you're going to get emotional over it. I can honestly say back then, Vince, besides my faith in God, and I'm not going to lie to you, it might have even been more important to me than God at that point. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It was my number one priority. And when you set your mind like that, You're either gonna pass or fail, and I was able to pass. I was able to succeed, and I'm not proud of the fact that I put wrestling before God, because I'm a man of faith. But at that time, that's how I was, and that was what was most important to me.
Kurt, do you think the mental then, when it came down to it, the mental and being in that frame of mind, which I could never, bro, I wouldn't know how to turn my emotion off. I wouldn't know how to do it. But that type of mental preparation, was that more important than the physical preparation?
Yeah, you have to remember, when you're at the Olympics or any event like that, everybody's going to be prepared. Everybody's going to be overly prepared. Everybody's going to be ready for it. There is no, oh God, I should have trained harder. We all train the same. We all put the time in. What it comes down to is you're right. It's mental. It's psychological. It's you're going to let your mind play tricks on you, because you're more than ready at that moment. And most people, unfortunately, they do clam up and they end up not succeeding the way they should. 90% of them. But I happen to be the one that did succeed. The guys I wrestled, some of them did choke. I had a guy that was beating me 3-0 with 1 minute left. I beat him 4-3. Wow. He choked. So, and that was in the quarterfinals of the Olympics. I almost didn't make it to the medal round. So, these guys are the ones that choked. I didn't. I kept my composure and I kept moving on.
That's amazing. Kurt, looking back now, 20 freaking years, the anniversary of the gold medal. When you look back now, Kurt, is there something like that? Obviously the big event was winning the gold medal, but is there something more specific to Kurt Angle during that time that really stands out in your mind above everything else?
Yeah, I'm from a big family, Vince, and my whole life has been based around my family. I should say my family's been based around my whole life. From when I was a little kid, they all traveled with me everywhere. My mother even went to France to watch me wrestle. I raised money so that my family, while growing up, while training in high school, college, the Olympics, I would raise money so my family could travel with me. It wasn't just a one-man show. My family had everything to do with my success, but they were always with me, and they traveled with me everywhere. That's why I went to Carrion University, this little small Division II school, an hour away from my family, because I wanted them to be there. I could have went to Oklahoma State, and I could have won 3 or 4 national titles. They won the team titles back then when I was in college, but I decided to stay at home. And it was more important for me to have my family with me, because that's what was most important to me. And the Olympic run wasn't just a Kurt Angle run. It was an Angle family run. It was a whole team effort.
Kurt, I got to ask you this question, because I did not know this about you. And again, bro, I read this, so I'm going to have you confirm it. I was reading, bro, that, after the Olympic gold medal, that you were offered a contract from the WWE. You turned down a contract first and literally went to go work in the workforce. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Was that money, or what? Were you not sure you wanted to go that route? What was that about?
It had a lot to do with the reputation of pro wrestling. When you're an amateur wrestler, me growing up, I didn't watch pro wrestling. I wasn't allowed to. My brothers put it in my head that, listen, that's the fake crap. You do the real crap. You don't watch that. You keep doing what you're doing and don't even think about it. So I never did watch it. And after the Olympics, obviously Vince McMahon called me and invited me up to talk to him about a contract. And Vince gave me a great contract. He gave me a 10-year deal, multiple $1 million. It was a great contract. And when I brought it back to my agent, he threw it in the trash. He said, "You're not doing this. You've stayed away from this your whole entire life. Now you're going to consider doing it. This is fake. You're a real wrestler." And so I went with it. I said, "Okay, well, what am I going to do now?" And he said, "Well, Fox called and they want you to be a commentator and be a weekend sports anchor for the local affiliate in Pittsburgh. Why don't you do that? So I decided I would go in that direction. That's what I did. So I passed up the wrestling, and unfortunately, 3 years later, I contacted the WWE and asked if that contract still stood, and that's when I talked to JR. And Jim Ross said that no, it wasn't, but I could come up and try out. And I figured, you know what, I'm not getting the money now, but I'm going to prove to these guys I can do it.
What was it then at that point, Kurt? Was it at that point a money issue then? Why you called back, pretty much?
I was making good money. I mean, I wasn't making ridiculous money. I was making good money. I was making a good living. So it wasn't really money. It was what am I going to do? Because I wasn't really liking what I did. I didn't like doing the sports anchoring. I didn't like being somewhere for 12 hours typing stories, and it just wasn't me. I'm not a 9-to-5er, and I didn't want to do it. So I decided if I'm going to do something, I traveled my whole life for amateur wrestling. I went to 44 different countries. Might as well do the same in pro wrestling.
Did the competitive fire have anything to do with it, Kurt? I can't imagine your whole life, bro. You're an amateur wrestler, hundreds of matches, standing across from a guy, staring him down, that one-on-one competition. Bro, that had to be a huge hole when you were no longer doing it, no?
Yes, it was. And it was really hard for me to I remember I was feeling really down on myself for a good 8 to 12 months and didn't know what I wanted to do. I felt lost. There was nothing there that was, I was thinking about going back to the Olympics, and it just, and I knew I didn't want to do that. And it was like the good Lord kept pushing me to pro wrestling. I don't know why. I figured it out now. I actually am a better pro wrestler than I was an Olympic wrestler. And that's hard for me to say that, but it's the truth. I didn't realize I would get this damn good, Yeah.
Now, Kurt, during that time when there was, no longer that competition to fuel your fight, did you like just go to the local mall and start taking people down, blindsiding them, and to kind of get you fixed? Is that what you had to do, Kurt?
No. I did what I would do is I would go to an MMA gym and train, the Pittsburgh Fight Club. I had a lot of fun doing that. I was considering doing MMA at the time.
Kurt, that would be my next question. That would have obviously seemed more logical for you. I mean, you didn't want to go in wrestling right away because that was the fake sport. Understandable. MMA was the real thing. Why did you not go down that path immediately?
Well, that's where money became important. The UFC at the time, Dana White was not there. As a matter of fact, there was a vice president that was a woman, and anybody that knows who it is that's listening. I don't remember her name, but she offered me a 10-fight deal for $150,000, and I thought, wow, $15,000 a fight? That's nothing. And that was at the time. This is 1998. That was the biggest contract they were giving out. So UFC wasn't paying money. Most of these fighters were getting $2,000 for a fight or $5,000 to win, and there just wasn't a lot of money in it. So I thought, why would I want to get my ass kicked for $15,000 a fight? It just didn't make sense.
Yeah. And
fortunately, UFC evolved quite a bit when Dana White got a hold of it, and by 2003, it was there was money in it, and by then I was so far into wrestling, I couldn't turn back.
Kurt, I got to ask you this question because now you enter the world of wrestling. And Kurt, I find myself saying this a lot. It's hard to be a good guy and exist in the wrestling business. And I know so many guys that are on the outside looking in because they're good guys. They're not going to play the game. And in a political environment, they're going to get chewed up and spit out. There's a lot of good people that I think should be in the business, but when it comes to that environment, they cannot exist. And, the weak get eliminated. Bro, you've always, Kurt, since I've known you, you've always been such a stand-up guy, a family guy, God first, knew your priorities, never worry about money, never pulled the power play, never wanted creative control, never had an ego. How were you able to be so successful in an industry that could, let's face it, be cutthroat at times, Kurt?
I don't know, Vince. It does blow my mind at times because I think about it, and I've been around a lot of the politics, and I've seen it, and I've seen the ugly and the uglier and the ugliest. Don't know why I never got into it. It's just not me. I can't lie to someone's face and then behind their back destroy their reputation and tell the promoter, hey, I'm not losing to him. I'll never lose to him. I've always been about business, and I think that the sport of pro wrestling has always treated me well. There aren't many guys that had to be political, and I'll give you another one he's a great example, Sting. Mm-hmm. What a great guy that never got into it politically, and he's always been protected. I really think that the good Lord did the work for Sting. I really do, because this guy went through that business unscathed, and he was never political. If anything, he would try to help others. He would always try to make them bigger and more popular, and it wasn't about him. It was always about the match and what he could do for the opponent. I learned a lot from Sting when I was in TNA. He was, wow. It reiterated to me that I was doing the right thing by thinking how I did, by watching Sting. Sting was, I can't tell you anybody that's been that pure in this business and has succeeded that much. He's the man. I mean, and that he's the guy I wanted to be like.
Kurt, how much of this is going to be a strange question to you though, but bro, we know with wrestlers, like a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, you hear the story about, somebody like a Jericho taking down a Bill Goldberg. So let's face it. A lot of it is really smoke and mirrors. Do you think a lot of, maybe other guys politically not screwing with you had a lot to do with you literally break every bone in their body if you wanted to, and they knew that, you were totally legit if we went behind Kurt's back and he kind of found out? You think that might have played into it a little bit?
I think so. Yeah. I why not? I mean, literally, especially when I was healthy, outside of my neck injuries, I was pretty much a badass. And I think everybody knew that. And I don't think anybody wanted to test that. And that's cool. I mean, but it does kind of suck that you have to be that much of a badass not to be screwed with. Yeah. But that's the way the business is sometimes. But, yeah, I've been very blessed in WWE and TNA, but I've also always been about making sure that my opponent got over more than I did. And you know what? I got a reputation for that. I got a great reputation. Yeah. And, and the rumor is that Kurt Angle had a great match with a broomstick. That's because I was unselfish.
Bro, great story that Shawn Michaels was telling me the other day. I talked to Shawn a couple of weeks ago, and I was telling him what I loved about his character was, he was the DX guy, always kidding around, always joking around. But when he had a program with Taker, Shawn would get right in his face, talk crap to Taker, and made you believe Shawn's going to beat The Undertaker. And Shawn explained to me, he goes, Vince, let me tell you something. He goes, do you know why I was allowed to get away with that with Taker? And I said, no, Shawn, why? And he said, because Taker knew come bell time, I would step in that ring and give him my body, and he would throw me around like a rag doll. So he knew when match time came, I was going to give myself to him, which is basically exactly what you're saying now.
Yes, and Shawn is exactly right. And if there's anybody that I could say was the best entertainer of all time,
I agree.
Michaels, gosh. So yeah, I think that is the reason. I think Shawn's dead on about that. You can't just walk up to Undertaker and cut a promo in his face. But Undertaker knew. He knew if he treated Shawn the right way in that promo, that match would be a 5-star match because it's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
He gives you his body, you're going to have a 5-star match, whether you suck or not. Shawn's that good. So I understand. And, that's the way Shawn is. And, Shawn also is a guy that doesn't take shit from anybody either. He's I've had some quarrels with him, and but I respect him for that. I think that he's not just a great entertainer; he's a great human being, and he's not a bullshitter. No. He's up front with you. He is who he is. So he's not one of those guys that behind your back does something.
Kurt, I say this all the time, bro, and I was there, standing right there. I never saw anybody speak to Vince McMahon the way Shawn did, bro. Never, nobody, and on more occasions than one, bro.
Yeah, I could imagine. I've never been there, but I could imagine Shawn saying what he wanted to say to Vince.
As a professional, during the work day, I never, ever witnessed Kurt Angle even getting mad. I never saw Kurt Angle mad. During the work day, there was one night in a hotel room that I will not get into. But what I want to ask you, Kurt, is in a locker room, whether it was, a WWE, TNA, bro, did you ever come close to having fisticuffs or an altercation with somebody? Were you ever pushed that far and never came that close?
Yeah. I did, and I'm not proud of it. It happened with Eddie Guerrero, and it was a pretty quick fight, but it had to do with Eddie was really frustrated. He was really frustrated. As talented as he was, his body was really breaking down. He was in a car accident in the early 2000s, and he had to get himself straight. He had to go to rehab, I think, at one point, and he got out. And he was doing great, but he was really struggling mentally and physically. His body wasn't keeping up, and so working with him, I had a nice long program with him for about 8 months. And working with him, afterward, he would always be yelling and screaming and saying I was too stiff and, I needed to take care of him. And it just got so old after a while that I just said, F it. Eddie, you have a problem with me. Let's go right now. And so it did happen, but it was a slow burning process. It was a nice 8 months. And I understand Eddie's frustration because I had guys with me at the time, Luther Reigns and Jindrak, Mark Jindrak.
Yeah, Mark Jindrak. Yeah.
They were with me, and they were a little stiff with Eddie. So it wasn't necessarily me; it was my team. And so Eddie and I got in a fight, and it didn't last long. I got him in a front headlock, and I choked him. And I started choking him out. And the funny thing is, when he got done, Bradshaw, who likes to stir it up, said, Eddie, why the hell would you try to double-leg an Olympic gold medal? Because that's how I choked Eddie.
Hey, Kurt, I got to answer this question, bro, because I'm living vicariously through you. Bro, when you're choking somebody out for real, do they tap out and do you let go? What prevents you from killing the guy?
You're going to love this, Vince. What prevented it? This is where I really got mad. What prevented me from not killing Eddie was Big Show. Okay, this guy is so big and so strong. He grabbed me and Eddie by the back of our singlets and lifted us up, and he carried me with one hand to one side of the room and carried Eddie to the other side of the room with his hands, just holding both of us. We were both dangling. Yeah. And when he got done, I got up. I had that little guy syndrome. What'd you just do? I was kind of taken back that he could do it that easily. But that's what broke Eddie and I up. But knowing what Big Show could actually do to me, it kind of humbled me.
Kurt, I don't know about this because let me tell you something, bro. Do you want to know what was the most impressive thing I saw in my career in wrestling?
What?
Bro, we were in the catering, and Shamrock had just come into the WWE.
Okay.
And, bro, Big Show is effing with Shamrock, almost testing him to see how tough he is.
Right.
Now, bro, Shamrock, if you know Ken, he was the new guy on the block, very respectful. He wasn't trying to prove him. Yeah, he wasn't trying to prove himself to anybody. Finally, Big Show's, poking the bear. Bro, finally Shamrock says to him, cool, calm, and collectively, if you don't quit effing with me, I am going to take you down right here in front of everybody and have you in tears within 3 seconds. Bro, Show poked him again.
Oh,
bro, like this. Shamrock took that guy down like this and had him screaming in agony. And I was like,
Shamrock's a badass.
Oh my! I could not believe what I had just seen.
And that's in his prime too, man. That was
his
really
prime, bro. And Kurt, I gotta ask you. I'm gonna make one comment. Then I'm gonna ask you this about Shamrock, because you and Shamrock, there are a lot of similarities. One guy I think you should have killed and cleaned his clock for almost killing your career and ruining your career, in my opinion, was over at TNA. I think you should have took out Jeremy Borash and those ridiculous vignettes that he made you do that almost killed Kurt Angle's career. We should have killed Jeremy when we had the chance. Especially, remember when he was steam ironing your pants and he looked like he was, giving you the Kurt, here's what's amazing to me. When I look at you and Shamrock, because on my show now, Kurt, every week I go back and I look at the Attitude Era, and I'm seeing Shamrock in his prime.
Yeah.
It blows me away, bro, the way legitimate workers, Shamrock a shoot fighter, you a legitimate Olympic gold wrestling. Yeah. It kind of blows my mind, bro, how quickly and easily you were able to pick up professional wrestling, which is a totally different animal. But I would have to think, Kurt, there had to be instances, especially early on, where you had to non-intentionally be hurting some of your opponents, kind of forgetting, okay, this is play now. This is not the real deal. Did that happen early on in your career?
Yeah. And I had to learn very quickly, because I'll give you an example. Dr. Death Steve Williams, you know how badass he was. When I started, we were doing the Dory Funk Dojo camps, and he was getting real frustrated with me because I was really super stiff, and I wasn't letting up. And if anybody taught me, because he was a shooter too, and he was really easy to work with. He was light, and I wasn't, and he kept telling me, and he got to the point that one day he jacked me up and said, "Listen, I can't have you doing this to me anymore. I'm 40 years old, and if you don't stop this, my career's going to come to an end. So if you do it again, we're gonna have a fight." And I was like, "Wow, maybe I am a little too stiff. The headlock's a little too tight. My punches are a little too hard." So I had to learn. I learned from Dr. Death, which I had all the respect in the world for, because he was a 4-time All-American in college for wrestling. So,
Kurt, I got to tell you, I just came off an Attitude Era show, and I'm going to talk to you about this in a second, the Brawl for All. And Dr. Death was in there against, Carl Ouellette, bro. Pierre, bro, Carl Ouellette was a tough guy. He was a legitimate tough guy and rock solid, bro, like rock solid. Bro, Dr. Death, who had to be 40 at the time, he had to be, freaking mauled him, bro. It was like a bear mauling a piece of meat. He got hurt later on in the competition, Dr. Death, but that one match he mauled him. Bro, if you were around for Brawl for All, do you think you would have done that, Kurt?
Would I have done it? No. But if they would have put me in it, would I have done well? Yeah, I would have won it. I don't have any concern about that. It would have been a lot of fun, but to me, that it wouldn't have been that challenging because basically all it was a shoot fight. It had nothing to do with pro wrestling. I don't even know why they did it.
Can I tell you why? Because it was my idea. You want to hear the story behind that?
Yeah.
It was my idea. Some people loved it.
Okay, wait. Before you start, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If it was your idea and you did that, then why didn't the guy that won, why didn't he become a big star?
Well, I think because of the way it ended. I think of
Gunn, right?
What was that?
His last name was Gunn.
Yeah, Bart Gunn, bro. I saw him a week ago. He's a killer. Here's the thing, Kurt. You'll appreciate this. I don't know what your relationship was with JBL, but I kind of thought JBL was kind of a jackass because he was a bully, bro. He
could be. Yeah, you had to really know him to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't. So he came across as a bully. So, bro, we're in the back one day, and it's me, JBL, and I was writing, and it's me, JBL, and Kevin Kelly. And JBL starts going off on if I got into a bar fight with anybody on this roster, I would absolutely kill them.
Oh, God.
So, bro, that's all I have to hear, bro. The freaking bully making a statement like that. So,
yeah.
Bro, that week,
that wasn't the right statement. Oh,
that
God.
was not. So that week at TV, I went to Vince's house. I said, Vince, I got this ridiculous idea. And I pitched the Brawl for All. And, JBL was in it. And now, he put his foot right in his mouth. This idea stemmed from him. And at the end of the day, he wound up getting his clock cleaned.
Yes, he did. And did he make it to the finals?
Yeah, Kurt, I think bro, this is gonna piss you off because this drives me crazy to this day. The final was Bart Gunn against Godfather, and bro, Bart Gunn killed everybody, bro. I never saw one human being hit another human being as hard as when Bart Gunn hit the Godfather, bro. His eyes rolled in the back of his head, and bro, the Godfather. That's as tough as they come.
Yeah, he's a tough guy. You're right.
So, bro, now the match is booked between Bart Gunn and Butterbean. All of a sudden, Vince tells Bart to, take on Mark Merrow's trainer. I think his name was Rinaldi. And all of a sudden, Bart Gunn, this guy is teaching Bart Gunn how to box. Bro, Bart Gunn, there was no boxing in him killing people.
He's not a boxer.
Yeah, so, bro, he goes in that ring against Butterbean, tries to box Butterbean, and Butterbean just cleaned his clock.
He should have just fought him. You're right.
Yeah, for him to change strategy was I was just talking about that.
You're right. He should have just thrown punches and did what he did before. You're right.
Can you imagine, bro, changing it? Anyway, bro, let's talk. I want to ask you this, Kurt, and then we're going to go to TNA for a minute. But I want to ask you this, bro. There's so much, you don't know what to believe. You don't know what not to believe. I think there was a little bit of closure. But, bro, there's always a lot out there, Kurt, about people thinking that, there may be or was a little heat between yourself and Triple H. That's what is always getting reported. Right. I don't know if that's true or not, but what I do want to ask you is your time there at the WWE before you came to TNA, and this will be the last WWE question. Was it a little kabuki-ish between you and Triple H, or did you guys always have a good relationship? Because from what I understand, just about a couple months ago, you had a good talk with them where I hope that's true, and I hope everything went well. But was there ever a little kabuki-ish relationship with you two?
No, I never had a problem with Triple H, and I don't think he really had a problem with me. It's never been about that. No, we got along well. We had some great programs together. There was nothing really, and I haven't talked to him up until this day. Ever since I left WWE, I have never spoken to Triple H.
Because there was a story out there about a said meeting, and that never took place, huh?
Never took place.
Okay, Kurt, so to set the record straight, regardless of what the dirt sheets reported, you've never met with Triple H.
Yeah, I never met with Triple H. My manager had a call with him about a year and a half ago. We were going to have a meeting. The meeting got canceled, and that was that. I have to attribute it to, me having 4 DUIs in 5 years. Being careless. I don't blame WWE for not wanting to do business with somebody that's that careless. Now, I've been clean and sober for 3 years now, but you have to earn your trust back, and I understand that, and I don't blame them for that.
But more importantly, too, Kurt, and I think I understand because I'm in the same boat. The older we get, it's kind of just, wanting to have closure. I know I had a relationship with Vince McMahon. I know you had a relationship with Vince McMahon. I know that yours maybe wasn't what you wanted it to be at the end. But, bro, it just seems like the older we get, Kurt, the more closure we want with people that played a part in our lives.
Oh, without a doubt, I think you're right, Vince. It's not even that much. It's not even that much about wrestling for WWE again. It's having the closure and being able to have that one meeting with Vince where everything's cool and we're water under the bridge and we're good to go.
Yeah,
you're right.
I hear you, bro. I'm at that same place. Let's turn to TNA for a second, Kurt. Listen, fact of the matter is, with the main event Mafia running strong, at one point TNA is up to 2 million viewers. I feel right on the cusp of getting to that next level. Fast forward, bro, 4 years later, 5 years later, third network, 350,000 people watching the show every week. If you had to attribute it to something, Kurt, what would that be?
I think it comes down to money. I think it comes down to the budget, not having enough employees, trying to do 6 shows in 3 days. A lot of things get thrown by the wayside, and the quality show doesn't become that much quality anymore. So there are a lot of things that occur, and for me, having to wrestle how many times in 3 days, whether it be 4 or 5 or 6, that's entirely too much for me, especially at the main event level. So in every aspect, from a writing aspect, from a wrestling aspect, from literally trying to do so much in 3 days and get that done for the next month and a half, you're not going to have as quality of a show. It's going to be a lot worse than you want it to be.
Yeah, and Kurt, I used to say that all the time. I understand, TNA is run by finances. Finances dictate.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And I get it and I understand it, but I used to try to explain to them, I get it. That's the way it has to be. Yeah. But when you're shooting 6 shows in 2 days or 6 shows in 3 days, whatever it is, your quality is going to keep dwindling more and more and more. And, bro, I have to believe, Kurt, even somebody of your stature, bro, that third match or that fourth match is not going to be the quality of that first match, cyborg or no cyborg, I would have to think, Kurt.
Yeah, Vince, I could tell you right now, I could put on a 5-star match every week if it's every 1 day a week.
Right.
But when you start wanting me to do 3, 4, 5 matches in 3 days, man, I can't do it anymore. And I think a lot of wrestlers feel that way.
Yeah. Kurt, I want to ask you your opinion on this. How did you feel about the a lot changed when Hogan and Bischoff came in. Let me put it to you that way. And you know what, bro? I'm going to be honest with you, Kurt. I never blame Hogan and Bischoff for anything. Mm-hmm. I don't. I think one thing that happened, bro, is I think when Dixie had to come up with the finances to pay Hogan and Bischoff, I think they were borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And I think at that point, maybe some of that money came out of our advertising. Maybe some of it came out of promotions. Maybe some of it came out of PR and publicity. And that might have hurt the company in the long run, because maybe a company that size just did not have the finances to pay these guys what they were paying them. But that's just a that's just an educated guess. But I think the main problem, bro, was, and I think this has always been a problem with TNA to this day, And Kurt, it all starts at the top. It starts at the top with Vince McMahon. It starts at the top with Dixie Carter. And I think a lot of TNA's problems stemmed from Dixie not wanting to make decisions and always having to bring somebody else in to make those decisions. And the more people she brought in, she never really took the time to say, okay, Vince, you're going to do this, and Eric's going to do this, and Bruce is going to do that. She never did that. She never clarified anybody's role, and that led to people stepping all over each other, crossing lanes. That led to a lot of chaos, bro, which quite frankly, Kurt, that led to me leaving because it just got to the point of being ridiculous for me. Bro, creatively, you had me, you had Bruce, you had Eric. It was 10 levels of approval. Yeah. It got to the point where I sat back and I said, you know what? This is hurting the company. Yeah. Somebody's got to take a step away. I walked away from the money and it was me. But I think her failure to make decisions that a boss needs to make, and maybe it's just not in her makeup, maybe it's just not in her personality, but I think the lack of decision making really hurt that company in the long run. My opinion.
I think there's a lot of truth to it. I like Dixie. I think she's great.
We all do. We all do.
But I don't know if her personality is the type of personality that's built for the wrestling business. I'm not saying it's not. I just think that she's too nice, too kind. She doesn't like to hurt people's feelings. Yeah. And, she's more of a, for me, even though she's around my age, she was more of a sister mother figure. So she was always everybody's friend, nobody's enemy. And I think I think it took a toll on the company. I think that in order to be the boss, you have to show that you're the boss, and you have to show that you wear the pants. And I don't know if Dixie really did that. When she brought in all these big names, the Vince Russos and the Bruce Prichards and the Hulk Hogans and the Eric Bischoffs, and who's the boss and who's running it and who's answering to who. And I'd imagine with those personalities, it had to be a hell of a lot more confusing. And
and not only that, Kurt, when you wind up hashing it out yourself because the boss will not make clear-cut decisions, that's when it starts getting really, really bad. And I think there were two things, bro. I think it was her fear of making decisions. And number two, though, Kurt, right behind it was, bro, you got to learn from your mistakes. Like, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes, but you got to become stronger from mistakes. You can't repeat them and grow, bro.
Yeah, I think that's what hurt the company quite a bit over the past few years is the continuous mistakes. And it's sad because, I mean, Dixie, this company, especially when you were writing and I was there with the Main Event Mafia, we were doing really well. We were making some noise. I mean, for a little tiny company like that, being able to make that noise and have 2.1 million viewers, and it was an exciting time because it wasn't WWE. It wasn't WCW. It was this little tiny Nashville company called TNA, and to be able to, to have that type of success with a small company like that, it felt really good. It felt like we all had an incredible purpose, Yeah.
And Kurt, I tell people all the time, when we were up to the 2.1 million that you're talking about, it was being fueled by the Main Event Mafia. And let's look at who was there. Yeah. You, Sting, Steiner, Kevin, and Booker. And at the end of the day, Kurt, here's the bottom line, bro. And it's business 101. Bro, you got to spend money to make money. Yeah. And if you don't have money to spend, you can't make money, bro.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But Vince, I never got involved in that side. I didn't want to be involved in that side. And that's probably why I don't know a lot about it. I know other wrestlers do because they like to stick their nose where it doesn't.
Right.
But I never did that. So I don't really know what happened. I can only assume. But listening to you, it does make sense.
Yeah, it was chaos, bro. It was utter chaos. Kurt, let's move on to a couple other things. I want to wrap up here with you, bro. You gave me so much of your time, and I appreciate it. But I got a couple of interesting questions I want to ask you. Non-wrestling related. Bro, you appeared on the Chris Angel show, Mind Freak.
Yeah.
Bro, is that a work? Were you able to find, out, what's going on over there with that Chris Angel? Did he make you disappear, Kurt?
You know what? He I can't believe you're asking that. It was mind blowing, man. He's obviously he's an incredible magician. He threw me off guard. I just can't believe he can do the stunts he does. I don't know how he does it. When he did what he did, and I followed through and watched everything, I still can't figure out how he did it. But it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun being on that show and seeing him, mind freak everybody. It was pretty cool.
Here's another one I want to ask you about, bro. Bro, I think this is money. I swear I don't know why nobody ever saw this. Now, bro, you had a role in Pain. What was it? Pain and Gain, right? With The Rock, right?
Yeah.
Bro, Rock's doing a lot of stuff now with what's his name? That little comedian. What's his name, bro? That I love so much.
Hart.
Yeah, Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Bro, would you and Rock not be phenomenal as playing the two opposite cops? I mean, bro, how can nobody see that? I think that would be phenomenal, bro.
You know what, Vince? You're barking up my alley now. That's where I want to go. But it'd be a lot of fun. I love Dwayne. I think he's entertaining as hell, and everything that we ever did was gold. And I'll never forget the times we had together. It was awesome.
Bro, you got to pitch something like that to him. That would be phenomenal.
I lost touch with Rock about 2 years ago. He was always he changed his number like 5 times.
I can imagine.
You know that.
Yeah.
But every time he would call me and give me his new number. The couple years ago he didn't. So I lost touch with him, and that was it. But I will tell you, he's the reason I got in that movie, Pain and Gain.
Yeah. Okay,
he looked me up. He did me a favor.
I'm going to throw you one more softball, bro. Then I'm going to ask you one last hard question, and we're going to be done with this.
Okay.
Bro, Duck Dynasty.
Yeah.
How the heck did you hook up with these yahoos?
They called my manager, and they wanted me on the show. And,
so they had to be Kurt Angle marks then, right?
I'm sorry?
They had to be.
Yeah. They are definitely fans. Yeah, they were big-time fans. They knew everything about pro wrestling. You wouldn't believe it. They were really big in the Attitude Era when you were writing for WWE. So they knew everything, and they just want to do kind of a little spoof of the pro wrestling thing, and they were more engaged with the Olympic style wrestling. They wanted me to teach their kids how to wrestle. So it was more of a it was a little pro wrestling, but it was more about the amateur wrestling, the Olympic gold medal.
Kurt, I'm going to ask you one more tough question because it's eating away at me. It's driving me crazy. And then I'm going to ask you one last question. We're going to wrap this up.
All right.
And you might not. I mean, Kurt, this question is the toughest question I will ask you during this interview, but it's driving me nuts.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to, bro. Listen, not being one of the boys. There are a lot of things I don't understand because I'm not in that mindset. So when I have somebody like you on the show, you've been there, you've done that, you could explain to me where I cannot put myself in the mindset of one of the boys.
Okay.
And this is a little touchy question, Kurt, but it's blowing me away. And Kurt, this doesn't just go for wrestling. This goes for baseball, football, basketball, you name it. Okay. All right, Kurt, recently, just this past week, and it doesn't even matter who they are. That's not the story, but we all know who they are. 2 guys at the WWE, Kurt, they failed the wellness test for a second time. Okay. And Kurt, this happens all the time. Baseball players, guys get busted the second time. I mean, football, it happens all the time. Repeat offenders. Okay. Kurt, here's what blows my mind as a fan. Like I said, whether it's wrestling, baseball, it doesn't matter. As a fan, here's what blows my mind. Somebody fails a drug test. They get busted for it. They get suspended for it.
Right.
Now, bro, what they do in a wrestler's world, wrestling is my life. This is my income. This is how I feed my family. Same with the baseball player. Okay, bro, you get busted for wellness once. Okay, I'm never going to put my career in jeopardy like that again. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Kurt, it blows my mind when it happens a second time. Because here's the deal. When it happens a second time, you failed the first time.
Right.
Because you failed the first time, they're probably going to watch you more closely. If I fail a second time, it may be the end of my career. So I sit back and I'm like, listen, man, only two things could be happening from my point of view to fail a second time. Number one, either it needs to be an addiction, number one, or number two, you are in either so much pain, your body is in either so much pain that you literally can't keep going without taking what you're taking. So even if that means failing another drug test, there's no other way you could continue.
Right.
Is there another reason for that? Because when it comes to pro athletes, bro, getting busted a second time, it just blows my mind.
Vince, I've been there, and I got hit. I failed a drug test in WWE. I could tell you, it's first and foremost the first red flag is addiction. If it's not that and it's the other, this sounds crazy, but if it's the other, that you can't go without the painkillers, then you shouldn't be wrestling anymore. You should have retired, hang your boots up. For me, it was addiction, and that's why I did it. It started with the neck, and then it grew to where I just had to keep taking them just to feel normal. Yeah. So I could tell you, you're right. One of two things. You're either an addict and you need to get yourself clean, or you can't go without the pain medication, then you shouldn't be wrestling. You should retire. And so I see what you're saying. Nobody should be hit twice, but, we all make mistakes. And if you get hit twice, then you probably have a problem, and you need to settle that problem.
Kurt, as a veteran who's been there and done that, and you lived it all, what would you tell these guys, bro? Where it's, I've heard it a million times. If we're hurting and we can't go on without the medication, we're going to lose our spot. So without any intention whatsoever, guys, depending on their personality, can now become addicted to, as you said, become normal. With the mentality of losing the spot, what would you tell, bro, a 25-year-old right now, Kurt, a 26-year-old who could not have their next match if they didn't take pain medication to get through it? What would you tell them?
I tell them to consider hanging up the boots. If they need the pain medication just to get through, then this is not the business to be in. I've done it, and I know how I feel now being clean. I can still work through it. It's not easy, and I think that's what a lot of guys struggle with is I could probably do it, but I feel better with if I'm taking something, so I'll just keep doing that. So it's crazy. I mean, here these guys are making millions of dollars, And if they get hit twice, they could lose their job, and they still do it. Man, that's but you have to remember, you know, a lot of times these wrestlers aren't thinking straight when they're taking that kind of medication. So
and a lot of times, Kurt, I'm sure with you too, bro, it takes a while for you to understand there's a problem here. It doesn't happen overnight, right?
No, it doesn't. And it took me a long time to check into rehab. I should have done it a long time ago, and I waited. And if anybody is dealing with that, the first thing they should do is seek help and get it. And they'll be able to. There are other ways around it, Vince. When I told you about maintaining my body all day, that's what I do. I do that because I don't take the pills anymore.
Yeah.
And it works. So there are alternative routes.
Yeah.
These guys just have to find it.
Yeah. Kurt, when is the beautiful Giovanna due?
November. We have, let me see. Yep. November or December.
Are you now, what about are you going to go in now for the big V? Is it time to go in for the big V, Kurt? Come on, you could talk to me now.
I'm never getting sniffed.
What? No. Kurt, why do I feel like a year from now?
I'll feel like less of a man.
Bro, why do I feel like a year from now Giovanna's going to be pregnant with baby number 6? Why am I feeling that, bro?
Listen, she was taking, you know, we had something implanted in her so she couldn't get pregnant. And the week she got it out, she got pregnant.
Oh, my God. Because you're a viral stud. That's why you got to get the big V, Kurt. You got to get the big V. One last question.
Yeah.
Here you are, bro, having done it all, the great Kurt Angle, one of the greatest human beings I love. Bro, come on. You've done more in your life than 95% of the population. Bro, right now, Kurt, right now, you know, you're a young man, you know, you're probably okay. You probably don't have to work. You know, you did well for yourself, but I know you know, and guys like to keep occupied. Yeah. Bro, what's your dream job right now, Kurt? Right now, if right now Kurt says, this is what I'm going to do for the next 10 years while I raise my beautiful family, what is that, Kurt?
You know what, Vince, I think what I'd really like to do eventually is coach. I stepped away from it for a long time due to this business, and I like to get back into coaching. I like to teach. I like teaching little kids or Olympic level athletes. I don't like the high school, college athlete because they seem more like they have to do it. When you're teaching a little youth kid, he's excited about it. You're teaching an Olympic level guy there. He's there because he wants to be there and he wants to win. High school and college, a lot of them on scholarship, a lot of them on the team because they were told to, they had to be because of their family, and they really don't want to go through practice. They just have there are a lot bigger chances to have negative attitudes in high school and college than to teach the youth or the Olympic level. So I'm either going for the gold medalists or the little guys. They just seem more enthusiastic about it.
Kurt, does anybody love wrestling more than Kurt Angle?
No, nobody.
No, absolutely. Bro, absolutely not, bro. No way.
That's all I think about all day. I think about moves, situations. My mind doesn't stop moving. It's like that all the time. I have spots in my head and wrestling moves, and it just never stops.
But bro, how are you? I keep saying we're gonna end this. We're gonna end this. But bro, how do you feed that? How do you feed that, bro?
That's why I have so many kids. I beat up on them.
Bro, yeah, that's why you got to get the vasectomy, bro, because you'll keep spitting out these kids till you have a wrestling team, bro. Then it'll be too late.
I know, Vince.
Well, Kurt,
this is the last one.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right. Listen, Kurt, bro, you know I love you more than anything. Bro, you know what I tell people about Kurt all the time, and I don't even think you realize this. This is how I could put Kurt over as a professional, as one of the greatest professionals I ever worked with. Bro, when we had the Main Event Mafia, Nash, Steiner, Booker, Sting, and Kurt, and we had like 6 to 10 pre-tapes a show.
I know.
Bro, by the second pre-tape, I lost everybody. Well, bro, let's be fair. I never lost Steiner. He just always used to go to the wrong locker room. But I lost Sting, I lost Nash, and I lost Booker. And we had all these elaborate pre-tapes with the Main Event Mafia.
All day.
And who was I with for the entire day? Kurt. Kurt covered every one of their freaking promos. And I always say that about your professionalism.
We had fun, Vince. And I figured if they weren't going to do it, I had to. So.
You were always there, bro, in your little suit, ready to go. You know, Steiner would come 20 minutes later. He was in the wrong locker room. But what are you going to do? All right, listen, Kurt, bro, thank you so much. I love you. I love Giovanna. I love your family. You know I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Vince.
It's right about time again to swerve again, confuse the general fans again. Add another swerve and then put it on a pole again. Put it on a pole again. Put it on the pole again. And our square to quad is gonna get emotional as I wait to overbook the damn cards.
Hello, Brandman. I'm Chantal, and you can watch me every weekend, only on the weekend feature, because there's any other quotes like Miss Chantal and